Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, The School of Love. My name is Maria and I am helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. Today I am inviting you to a new episode from the series how to be a good enough parent, how to do things better, how to find out your purpose, how to have an extraordinary life based on everyday events. And today I'm going to talk about a topic which interests me a lot as an employee. That is, how to be a good enough employee. And right at the beginning, I would start to I would like to start with a disclaimer. When I talk about how to be a good enough employee, it does not mean at all that I promote mediocrity. What I mean by that is that in trying to find a sense of balance, which is to be found in the first step in being good enough in whatever endeavor you might be pursuing at the moment. So, in finding a sense of balance in whatever area of your life you are looking for balance, is the first step in attaining a fulfilling life of contentment, which then leads or might lead, if you want to an extraordinary life of active contribution to others, to society, to your immediate environment, as well as to the world at large. But the first step is, in fact, being good enough, achieving a sense of balance and a sense of contentment at the level of an ordinary life. And I talk in another video about the three levels which constitute the human identity, which is being a woman or a man, that is owning one's sexuality, then being a mother or a father, that is being a parent, being someone who builds up the next generation, and being, in my case, a researcher or a scientist or a teacher, or simply being a citizen, that is being someone who exists in the larger context of the society or of the community if you happen to live in a smaller social environment. And what I mean by being a good enough employee is having both horizontally and vertically a good sense of belonging, and creating in your turn a sense of belonging for others. As usual, I'll deliver 10 guidelines for being a good enough employee. I hope these guidelines really help. So the first step is be productive. I know it sounds like a no-brainer, but being productive and being actually a good professional and contributing to the work environment you are in is actually the first step in being good enough as an employee at what you're doing. So be productive, and while one might not always be 100% productive, well, we all have our less than stellar days. It is fundamentally important that you stick to an average of at least 60 to 80% productivity, let's say, per week. Number 2, constantly improve yourself, either by attending formal training or by reading on your own. This is a big one. My generation and the next generation, we are probably the first in the history of humanity to live 100 years on average. So this means the classical human life trajectory, being born, having a childhood, going to school, the mandatory 12 years, and university eventually, potentially a graduate school or even a PhD, and then having a career, and then starting a family, having children, then retiring, and among others taking care of your grandchildren, is not an option anymore. We'll have to improve ourselves constantly. We'll have to live in cycles rather than having a unitary trajectory, and which means we'll have to learn repeatedly throughout and constantly throughout our entire life. And this is important on a professional level, but it is even more important on an individual level. Let's say you get married. I'll talk in another video more in greater detail about this one, but let's say you get married in your early 30s or by mid 30s. In order to to stay with your spouse for the rest of your life, which will be kind of 60, 70 years, you really have to work on that. Things do not happen just like that. Things do not stay the same, and if they stay the same, actually they stagnate. So, and one has to put work into staying on the same line with a spouse. More often than not, this doesn't happen. So, constant self-improvement, constant self-growth will become the rule rather than the exception. Number 3, show initiative and be proactive in your ideas and suggestions. So, as employees will often think, or maybe employees think, they have to do what they're being told, and this is where their responsibility ends. This is not true. While lifetime employment might still be on the horizon, it is actually more realistic to think in terms of job hunting and job hopping as becoming the rule for most of us. I myself have changed at least 4, 5, 6 times, depending how you count my jobs. And in order to do that in a positive way, this means to move upwards in your career and not downwards. So the older you get, to become rather a liability than an asset to any company or even to the society, you must improve yourself, and you must learn to speak up, to stand up, to stand out, to have ideas, to be able to sell your ideas, and to be able to express yourself in a way which come across as assertive, respectful, and innovative. Number 4, keep an open mind to the outside situation, both related to the workplace and to the world at large. Being informed and up to date is always a huge advantage in any interhuman environment, but more so in the workplace. So what this means is you have to update yourself. You finish college, university at 22, 23, then maybe you go 2 years in graduate school, maybe you graduate from a second graduate school, but nevertheless, you'll finish some sort of formal education when you are still in your early or mid-20s. And afterwards, you must work on keeping yourself updated, both in terms of education, so this I have covered this in number 2, but also in terms of what happens in the world. So, for instance, our parents' generation didn't think of multiple streams of income. We have to think of this because the pension system is actually collapsing all over the world, and particularly in the so-called civilized world, or the wealthy countries. It's collapsing. So we must organize multiple streams of income, particularly for the period after we retire, so it's 65. Because the older we get, the more of a liability we become for the companies, for the work environment, as well as for the society, in order not to become a liability, in order to become more and more an asset. Think of Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk in terms of how to impact the world. We must keep ourselves updated. We must adapt to the changing world we are living in, and we must keep ourselves receptive to whatever the life throws at us. Number 5, learn how to negotiate. This is crucial in family dynamics as well. Learning to express yourself clearly, to understand the position of the other, and then to think in terms of win-win is a survival skill in any interhuman interaction. And the greater the group, the more necessary it is. So what this means is you must learn, as much as some of us actually hate confrontation and hate negotiation, hate to sell themselves. This is important. We cannot afford nowadays to say, no, the others must know how valuable I am. I do not need to sell myself. This is wrong and might prove fatal if we continue to think like this. We must learn to negotiate in any sort of interhuman relationships while thinking in terms of win-win. I bring something to the table which you need, and I believe strongly that you have something which I need, and we can find a way to benefit each other in this interaction. It is my firm belief that only win-win interactions, win-win relationships, win-win negotiations at the end of the day can survive long term. This is not only in terms of workplace dynamics, but as I said, in terms of family, friendships, and with our own children. Number 6, have clear boundaries. This is a big one. So have clear boundaries. Express them clearly and be consistent. If they are crossed, be kind in reminding your boss or co-workers of them. Enforce consequences for repeated crossing. Otherwise, you come across as weak and you might end up being taken for granted. As one of my favorite dating coaches says, there is no worse situation in life than being taken for granted. So this means essentially people don't respect you. So in order not to be taken for granted, in order to be respected, in order to earn respect of others, you must prove that you have your own intrinsic value. It's not that you have to prove, you must have your own intrinsic value. You must believe in your own intrinsic value and stick to your boundaries. So it doesn't matter which kind of boundaries. So in my case, is I keep very clear separation between private life and professional life. I'm friendly at work, I'm cordial at work with my coworkers, but I don't have friends among them. Experience has shown that this is never a good idea. At some point things get messy and it is very difficult to solve professional work-related issues when friendly feelings or friendly emotions are to be taken into consideration. It could be that you don't work on weekend. It could be that you don't read your emails after 6 o'clock in the afternoon until 10 o'clock in the morning. Regardless which boundaries you have, enforce them. So set them clearly, express them clearly, enforce them, and show consequences in case they are crossed, and do it consistently. So next point, number 7. This is my very important issue. I struggled with this for years or even decades. Separate professional life from private life. This might be different in various cultures and socioeconomic environments, but from my experience, this is work, study, marriage, friendships in 3 countries like Romania, Germany, and Japan, and on 2 continents, Europe and Asia, and with persons of the most diverse nationalities and backgrounds. Separating professional from private life is always a good attitude. You can do it explicitly or more discreetly, openly or rather passively, but keeping your privacy is always of advantage. So, first of all, people learn to respect you. They do not ask nosy questions, and in turn, you are not privy to their own problems, and you keep your distance. It is from my experience that it is good to have this very clear separation, and I am enforcing it religiously everywhere. Number 8, understand what work is. or should be, and that is only a third of your life. Do your best to keep a healthy balance and prepare to quit when things go to your disadvantage for a prolonged period of time. This means there are moments in life, of course, when you have to work more, you have to invest more in your professional life. But let's say over the period of time of half a year or 1 year, if there is a strong imbalance in private life, professional life, and individual life, then you have to do something about it. So either setting more clear boundaries or having a discussion with your boss or changing jobs eventually. So this is, again, very important. Number 9, be friendly with your coworkers, but keep in mind always that they are coworkers, not your friends or family. In other words, you are not replaceable. You are unique to your family and friends, but not so to your workplace. So do not invest more than you actually get out of it. And number 10, the most important, which is actually taken from Robert Greene's seminal book, The 48 Laws of Power. Do not outshine your master. Namely, do not outshine your boss. We all have done this mistake. I know I have done it repeatedly, several times. But once I have learned my lesson, I'm very cautious not to do it again. So do not outshine your boss. If it happens, and it will happen, that you think you're better than him or her, that you can do things better, then try to get a raise. Try to get a better position within the enterprise, within the institution, or change jobs. But do not compete. Do not even think of competing with your superior, with the one above you professionally. That's survival. That's really the basic of survival strategies. So that would be for today. I'm always happy to listen to your feedback. What else do you think is important in order to become a good enough employee, which then might lead to becoming an extraordinary employee, or even to manage the jump into becoming an entrepreneur? Leave your ideas in the comments, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again very soon. Love and peace to you all.